but he had some challenges as well last night.
He sure did. Jeff Zellamy, thanks so much. Let's chew over all this. And Angela, let me start with you. I've seen a lot of criticism of former Vice President Biden over this exchange. Take a listen.
What responsibility do you think that Americans need to take to repair the legacy of slavery in our country?
Well, they have to deal with look, there is institutional segregation in this country. And from the time I got involved, I started dealing with that. Redlining, banks, making sure that we are in a position where, look, we talk about education. We bring social workers into homes of parents to help them deal with how to raise their children. It's not that they don't want to help. They don't know quite what to do. Play the radio, make sure the television, make sure you have the record player on at night, the phone.
I've seen a lot of people criticizing, a lot of African Americans in particular criticizing that answer for being from a different century.
I don't know what he was answering, but it wasn't the question. And I would start with the fact that just this same week, Jake, we are in the middle of Congressional Black Caucus Foundation activities. Started the week off with a commemoration of the 400th year that the first documented enslaved person arrived to these shores. The fact that Joe Biden's response to that question would go to the same type of victim blaming that we've seen from conservatives for decades is sad. I think it also is highly problematic that Joe Biden has not yet dealt with whether or not he has a black agenda. When we talk about racism in this country, it's not about parents not knowing how to raise their children. And then for him to say that on the stage at Texas Southern University, which is a historically black college, which, shameless plug, I did the commencement speech this spring. I don't know if he's not listening to his black advisors, because he has them.
Sure, Simone Sanders is one
yes,
of them. Yeah.
A good sister friend of mine. I know that Simone would not have encouraged him to give that answer. And I want him to really come to terms with the fact that things are different from when he started in politics. He's been in politics a long time. Even different from when he served as vice president for both terms for Barack Obama. It is a different day and age, and it is required, it is incumbent upon him to have a black agenda. It is the reason why 52% of the respondents to the black census by the Black Futures Lab say they don't think politicians care about black people.
What did you think of that answer, John?
You know, I think Angela raises a lot of important points. He didn't answer the question. It's an important one that he should answer. He does need to have a black agenda. He can't just rely on being a friend of Barack Obama and older African Americans supporting him from now until all the voting is through. I read this a couple of times because when I heard it last night, I was focused on the record player, and that was just throwing me off. Mm-hmm. And how I heard it was that he just lost his way on the answer, that he didn't answer the question. He started talking about poor schools, poor families, his wife, who was a teacher, his deceased wife, who's a teacher. Then he started talking about what should happen for low-income communities, that he completely lost his way. Now, that's how I read it.
He finished the answer by talking about Venezuela.
He finished the answer by talking about Venezuela. It was, so I would argue that I don't think his intention was how it was heard. Now, that may not be important. What's important is how people are hearing it. But I don't think he didn't specifically say African-American parents are failing and they're doing X.
What was he talking about when he said a social worker needs to go into the home and tell people how to raise their kids in? And I just have to say, as the only black person sitting at this table, that I think it's not fair that we have to continue to accept that's not what this person meant. That's not what they intended, when the impact of this country for 400 years has been a devastating blow to my community. I just want him to do better. I'm not saying he can't recover from this, but he's got to own that where he's been isn't good anymore.
I agree he needs to do better. I'm not arguing that. I just think that hearing this answer, and I think what's important is how people heard it and how they digested it and what they think they need to hear more of. But that's just how I digested as I read it.
And he continues to enjoy overwhelming support among